Hey folks, welcome to the Creating Your Conditions podcast, a work of understanding the conditions we are given, the conditions we create, and the conditions we have yet to achieve. You can find us at Creating Your Conditions on Instagram and on my YouTube channel at The Venn Diagram. I'll leave that in the description for you. My name is Vin. I use they, them, theirs pronouns, and I am your host. And in today's episode, I'm interviewing Arcee Montes, who is based in San Diego, California. Arcee Montes, she, her pronouns, is a Filipino-American first-generation college graduate. She studied and graduated with a bachelor's in psychology in 2014 and has recently made a huge career transition. After 9 years in teaching and behavioral therapy, Arcee finally came back to acting. She's currently pursuing a career in voice acting and looking into on-camera work as well. One of her favorite hobbies is playing video games with friends. Some games you'll find her playing are Overwatch, Dead by Daylight, and Lethal Company. She loves music, and K-pop is definitely her most played genre at the moment. Hello to any fellow stays. She's a foodie and loves trying out new restaurants, cafes, and food trucks. In this episode, Arcee talks about being put on a pedestal as the elder female daughter in her family, forgiving but not forgetting that her brother flushed her Pokedex down the toilet, and a lot more on how she had to meander through life to find her way to where she is now. So without further ado, I leave you with this episode. Welcome to the podcast, Arcee.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you today. Let's see. Let's start. Let's just jump right in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your upbringing was like, where you grew up. Yeah, start there for now.
Yeah, that sounds good. I feel like whenever people ask me where I grew up, it's always an awkward thing to answer because I really don't ever know how to answer that. I was born in the Philippines, but my dad was in the Navy. So I think we were in the Philippines for maybe 9 months before we moved to Japan, which is where my dad was stationed. So I lived in Japan for 4 years. And then my dad got stationed in the States in a place called Lemoore, California. It's a little bit more inland, a little bit more north. We stayed there for like 4 years, I think, too. Then my dad got stationed out in, I think it's called Port Hueneme, California, kind of by Santa Barbara. But we lived in Camarillo. And then Ridgecrest finally. Well, okay, there was actually like a really small stint where we lived in San Diego for like a super brief hot minute. I went to middle school here for a little bit, actually, or elementary
Wow.
school. I think it was middle school. I don't know, one of the two. Um, and then I moved to Ridgecrest, California, which is in the middle of nowhere. Very small city. We're known for.
I've been there.
Oh, that's so crazy! You have?
Yeah, my ex. We've had this conversation.
Have
My
we?
ex,
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
yeah, one of my ex-boyfriends is from there. Yeah.
Yes. I remember this
Yeah.
now.
But
Yes, it
other
is.
like he got really excited that I had another friend that was from Ridgecrest, and so did you when I told you.
It's so exciting. By the way, I am playing with Silly Putty, so if you hear any like farts or anything, it's not me. It is me, but it's not me. It's my
It's an
Silly Putty.
extension of me.
It's an extension of me, yes. My emotional support putty.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
Yeah. So yeah, I lived in Ridgecrest the longest out of everywhere that that's not true actually. I think San Diego's got it beat now. But
Mm.
we lived there the longest in my childhood. And then I moved out to San Diego in 2012 to attend UCSD. And so I've kind of been here and not here because my husband and I also moved around a lot in the last few years. So yeah, a lot of moving.
Yeah. I get that. Um, I'm curious, why did your dad joined the Navy?
I think part of it
So
was
he was
probably a citizenship thing.
okay. I was gonna ask, was he a
Uh,
Philippine national or was he already an American citizen? Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I think it was a citizenship thing for sure. He has older siblings who had joined the military also. So I think he was just kind of following those footsteps too.
Okay. Do you remember moving like after the age of 8 or like even before, I guess? Do you remember Japan and then that other city close to Santa Barbara? I forgot what one it was.
Yeah, Camarillo.
Camarillo.
Honestly, some of the like very small things I remember about Japan, which is really sad. I remember earthquakes a lot, and then I remember my first day of school because like I had no like sense of idea of what school is. That sounds so bizarre, but I had no idea what I was doing, and I feel like I've been winging it since then.
Most of us are.
Um,
We all are.
I know, right? But like I remember distinctly like we had to draw self-portraits and I could not for the life of me understand the concept of that. So I ended up copying the little girl like next to me and she's like this blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl and obviously my portrait does not look like that. And we ate applesauce and that's like the strongest memory I have of Japan. As far as like
Applesauce
anything
and
after,
earthquakes.
right? Yeah, it's a good, yeah, it's how I associate Japan.
And then
Mm,
yeah, like after in Camarillo, do you remember that part?
yeah, I remember that more. I think because I was older. My brothers and I started going to school together. So I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but I do have two younger brothers. We're all pretty close in age. I'm 2 and 4 years older than them. Um, but I remember like when we all started school together, it was like this super exciting thing. And I like specifically requested to be my brother's big buddy for both of them. I don't know if there was like a big buddy, little buddy program in your elementary school or if that's like a common program, but we had that.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, yeah, I remember those things.
Okay, it's cute. Um, I'm sure you've thought about it a little bit now that you've like gotten older, but like what impact did moving around a lot have on you? Or if
Oh,
you even thought about it
yeah.
as a teenager, if you had like angst from it because you were constantly being shifted around.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I think for me, something that the way that it impacted me was that I really thought of home as not like a particular place, but the people that I was with. And I think that's still something that I hold value to now is home is where my people are and not
Mm,
necessarily like a location.
I get that for sure.
Yeah.
So you're the big sister, and for context for folks, like Ate, Arcee is actually like my Ate in an org we were in college. But I haven't called you Ate in a while though.
And that's so okay with me. Like it's yeah. You haven't. How dare.
I know. I'm
Just
I'm a
kidding.
bad Ate. Shit.
No, it's okay. I haven't called you
Cutting this
Otting in
out.
a really long time too.
No, I think like it just changes after college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like our experience become more similar than like a big sibling relationship and dynamic, I
I
think.
agree.
Yeah, yeah. But that's how we met. But I wanted to ask, like, what was it like growing up with two younger siblings, of different like age, but and not too far in age, I guess, but different gender experiences too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I definitely was put on some kind of pedestal because I was the only girl in the family. The standards were different for me, being Filipino and everything. So that was rough. I felt like there was a lot more pressure on me, especially as the oldest sibling. And I feel like there is still pressure on me, even though I'm not as close with my family now, to kind of like be this like glue of the family. Um,
Mm.
so those were some things I remember growing up and some things I still experience now. My brothers and I, we fought like all siblings. We got along. I think we like loved hard and hated hard at the same time. Like I will
Hmm.
never forgive. No, that's a lie. I forgive him, but I will never forget my younger brother, like youngest brother. We had a Pokedex. And I don't know how expensive that thing was, but it was very valuable to me because I would just like press the buttons and like learn about like Clefable or whatever for
Oh,
fun.
one second. What is
Yeah.
a Pokedex for folks that might not know what that is? Please elaborate.
Okay, back in my day, we before there were more than 151 Pokemon, however there are now. Um,
Preach.
yeah, back in my day when things were more simple, we did have the little. It looked like a calculator, I guess, kind of, but it had information about different Pokemon. So if you wanted to learn about Pikachu, you could learn about like the different attacks and like um the different evolutions and just little facts about the Pokemon. And it was literally like it looked like a calculator. And um, I don't think it was colored in any kind of way. I think it was like pixelated. So
Probably, yeah.
yeah, I don't think it made any noises either. But yeah, my brother, I don't know what I did to piss him off. Sorry, are we allowed to cuss?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
All good.
Just in case. Um, yeah, I don't know what I did to make him so mad at me, but he got so mad. He took my Pokedex and flushed it down the toilet. And he didn't like make it through the drain, but it was done. Like there was no saving it. I know.
Damn, that hurts.
I know. I can't
So you'll
ever
never
look at
forget
Pokemon the
that.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Yeah.
It's very sibling nonsense for sure.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. What's and so I understand where Ridgecrest is because I've been there. So it's like a middle of nowhere, like suburb, that is very military. Like it's there's mostly just a military there with like suburbs homes around it. So what
Yeah.
was it like growing up there for you? Since that's where you spent
Um,
most of your childhood.
it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know if other people relate to living in a small town. I think some people they either really love it or they like hate it so much because it's so small. And the hate doesn't come from it being like small and not having anything to do. I think it was just kind of like it feels like everybody's in your business. Like
Ooh.
everybody knows each other. Almost everybody knows each other by like their last name, at least. So it's like, okay, I didn't go to school with you, but I might have gone to school with your brother.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but you do get excited when you meet somebody that knows where that is or they went to school there. Like I still get really excited when I meet someone and they're like, "Oh yeah, I actually did go to high school there." It's like, "No way, what's your last name?" And then it becomes a thing. So that's a fun part of it. Um, but yeah, it does feel kind of nosy. Especially with it being a military community, it was much more conservative. There weren't too many Asian people there. So like
Do you
I
remember how many?
I one of my best friends at that time was Asian. My boyfriend at that time was Asian also. We had another friend in our group who was Asian. I don't maybe like 10 10 people.
Dang.
I know.
Yeah, that was my high school too.
Yeah. Oh wow. Even in
Yeah.
where are you?
Norwalk, yeah, which is in
Norwalk.
LA County, which is
Okay.
funny because I'm next to Cerritos, Artesia, and these neighborhoods are like Korean, Indian, and
Yeah.
Filipino, but Norwalk is very Latino and Chicano, like Mexican.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, and
I
so
didn't know
yeah,
that.
there was like one year when I was a junior, most of the Filipinos graduated, and I was like, oh man, there's only five of us left now.
Oh no.
Because like
I'm
10 of
like, what do
them
I do now?
graduated at the same time. So
It's
it was
rough.
like that. Yeah.
Um, what? It yeah, so growing up in a small town too, you only have like one high school. At least
Oh.
I don't know if it still is that way, but we had one high school and then we had like two alternative schools, I think. But
Is that for
yeah.
after high school, you mean?
Oh, like an
Or
alternative school? No, it's like if like for some people that like dropped out of high school but wanted to get their GED still.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. What did you do with your time in a place that's like so suburby in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah. I got involved in well, this wasn't until oh no, I did do some sports in middle school. So in middle school I did volleyball. That was fun. It was like a um with the city, not with like the middle school itself. Um
Okay.
that was fun. I mostly got into it because my best friend at the time played volleyball. Figured why not? And it would be like a fun way to go to tournaments and get out of Ridgecrest. And then in high
Ah,
school, yeah,
to
high
escape
school,
Ridgecrest, I will do
yes,
volleyball. Got it.
exactly. Um, I then when I went into high school, I had always been curious. I'm so distracted. I got
Okay.
curious with theater. Um, so I found,
Oh,
yeah, I found like a passion with that, and that was like a great way to like meet people. I was able to express myself in ways that I wasn't able to at home, which was really nice and really freeing. Um, and yeah, I found a lot of love in that community, and that was nice. And I also did tennis, but only I don't know if I ever talked about this with you. I only joined tennis for the skirts
because you like the skirts?
because I like the skirts.
Oh, okay.
Could
Like how they
put stuff in
flow?
the pockets. They had pockets.
Oh. So like
I
tennis
don't know.
skirts have pockets specifically.
Yeah,
Ah,
because
I've
you put
never
your
worn a
tennis
tennis
balls in
skirt.
them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes
I know,
sense.
right?
See, no one's ever told me that before.
And you learned
Hmm.
a new thing today, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Still don't want to wear a skirt, but now I know they have pockets for tennis.
It's the only reason you wear them, I guess.
That's cool. Okay. I was a drama kid too.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's why we connected so well.
I have a lot of friends that ended up being theater kids, and like when we finally get to that point of our like friendship where we realize that, I'm just like, why do I have this in common with so many of you?
The math is mathin'. We just find each other.
Aha! Yeah, weird folk who say random things. I have found all of you.
You have been summoned.
Uh, cool, cool. And then you kind of mentioned that a little bit that you found a way to express yourself in drama in like that space that you couldn't at home. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I don't want to get like too far into it. Um,
Yeah.
only just for like privacy reasons, but I think what happened at home for me was like, and I don't know if this is like a common experience for other Filipino kids, but there was definitely an expectation to like not be sad, to not have those emotions, right? Like that it wasn't safe to cry or it wasn't safe to be mad or anything like that. So I really didn't have an outlet growing up other than like venting to friends or things like that. And I feel like I wasn't really creative in other any kind of other aspect. So when I did find theater, it was nice to play around with those emotions, and it's still something that I'm working on like today too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I think it's very common for like immigrant families to not talk about their feelings.
Hmm.
Um, American culture is very expressive. I'm not saying we're the best at mental health by any means, but American culture is very much like we gotta talk about stuff, and a lot of immigrant family culture is not like that. Like my parents are not like that. Like if I was sad, I would get yelled at for being sad. Like it was not
Right.
allowed. Like I was like, pretty sure that's a valid feeling, but I don't know how to say that because I'm like 10, you know?
Yeah, right. I don't have the language for that
Yeah,
right now, the words
yeah,
for
yeah,
this.
yeah. But I'm crying. I mean, like it's obviously valid. It's happening.
Hmm.
It's not valid for you. Okay, never mind. We'll stop this conversation. I don't know why I started Italian American accent there. Uh,
It's okay. I didn't I didn't even notice.
I figured that out a couple years ago with a coworker who also does that. It's because I watched a lot of mobster movies when I was younger.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah, yeah. But I'm glad that drama was a space for that
Mhm.
and like expressing that a little bit because I also didn't really have a creative outlet at that time. Maybe a little bit dance. Like I watched a lot of YouTube videos and then I would dance at dances at school, but I didn't have like a vocal way of like emoting things. So,
Yeah, and that's so it's definitely needed. Even if it's like not your own words, like with like poetry or anything like that, just like getting it out helps.
yeah. And the beauty of like drama classes is that you get to see others feel their emotions too. Because you might have an assignment where you make your own monologue and or everyone chooses a monologue and then you wonder like, oh, why did someone choose that one? You know?
Mm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah. So it's cool.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And so then did you so you got exposure to outside to other areas through volleyball. Were there, other than moving a lot, were there other ways that you kind of were able to leave Ridgecrest, like on family trips or anything like that?
Yeah, we went to Vegas a lot, which isn't like super close. I think it was maybe a 4-hour drive. Um, we went to Vegas. We did a lot of camping. My dad is a pretty big outdoors guy, or he used to be at least. So we would go camping, fishing, all that stuff. And then sometimes with like my friends, we would go to like the mall. The nearest mall was like a 45-minute drive or an hour. I don't know. It was far.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is that still the nearest mall now?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Dang. I didn't realize there wasn't a mall. I didn't go to a mall last time I went, so I didn't think about that. But wow.
I know.
45 minutes to get to a mall.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Dang.
that was always nice.
Okay, I got you. I'm just still processing 45 minutes to get to a mall.
I like for the longest time too, they only had one Starbucks. And that always blew
Okay.
people's minds. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't drink coffee. I think that's less of a mind blower for me, but
Okay.
I can understand that. I can understand that. Um, so you mentioned UCSD, which is where we met. Um, why there? Where else did you apply? What were you trying to do?
I was just trying to leave home.
Yo,
I'm
that's
being
real.
honest.
So real.
I was trying to leave home and then I was looking specifically for a psych program. Um, and I don't know if I applied for psych for all of the schools I applied to, but I applied to UCSD, UC Santa Barbara, UC Irvine, um, UC Berkeley, and UCLA. So I think I got I'm trying to remember which school it was. I think UCLA was like a no. They were like, sorry, we don't want you. And then UC Berkeley, I think I was on a wait list. And then I never heard back. So I was like, okay, that's probably a no. But I did get into Irvine, Santa Barbara, and San Diego. But at that point, it was between Santa Barbara and San Diego. And honestly, the only reason I picked San Diego was because, like, Santa Barbara sounded so scary. Like, because you know how there's like so many stories about it being a party school? And I
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
such a little square bear back then. I was like, I'm not ready for.
Square.
Yeah! I mean, I still am, but I was like, I'm not ready for college parties. Yeah. Because at that point, when I was applying to those schools, I was in my third year of college. I did 2 years of college in community college first. So I would be entering into my like junior year. And yeah, I was like, I'm not ready for junior year parties.
Oh, my heart, my dear friend. How sweet your soul, my friend. Oh my gosh, I can't. I was a square bear. Oh. So San Diego it was.
Yes.
That was the move. That was the move. Um, it's also been so long since like I met you. Like it's been like 9 years since I met you, I think.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, because I met you my last year or like my fourth year question
I
mark.
think your fourth year. Yeah.
So that was 2014, 20 into 2015. That's those that time. Yeah, see? Like so for me to have that like, you know, I have to imagine the version of you that I'm like before I met you. And then that person made this
Mhm.
decision to go to UCSD because you were deciding between those the party school. I was like, I'm not ready.
Maybe when I'm older.
Are you ready now?
No, I'm too old now. I'm past my little like entry point, I guess, my window of time. Mm-mm. I'll stay home and play video games now.
I always am like obviously there's pluses and minuses to transferring into a school, but from a cost perspective, I always admire people who like do community college and then transfer in. Like you do miss some of that like first and second year living on campus experience, but like you don't need to be there all 4 years and give that school all that money.
That is so true. Yeah. I
So
have no regrets about going to community college first.
yeah. So, what was your college experience like once you braved this new world and
Hey,
took
the
the
new world.
less party school?
You see, socially dead. I don't know if it still goes by that nickname. Um, that was
Probably.
the probably. It was scary, but I was so ready for change at that point. And I don't. Oh, I hope he doesn't listen. So I was dating my boyfriend at the time, and I think we were like 4 years into our relationship at that time. So I felt like we were both really immature at the time. I think I definitely held really high standards as far as like what was okay and what was not okay in our relationship. So I think because of that, I might have held myself back a little bit that first year. But I still went out and like met people. I hope my roommates aren't listening from that
Uh,
first year, but they were interesting. It was my first time like having roommates. Um,
mm,
and they weren't like the best people, but they weren't the worst people for sure. But I just remember my roommate at the time, she would play League, like and League of Legends, which is a I don't even know how to describe this game, but it's an online game. These matches take up to like they can take like 30 minutes to an hour. So she was gaming for like a while every time, but it would be at like 11 at night. And it's like, Miss Ma'am, I have an 8 a.m. tomorrow. Like, aren't you going to school too? Like,
yeah.
how are you awake right now? And her keyboard was really loud. But yeah, having roommates and living with other people for the first time definitely came with its challenges. Um, but it wasn't bad, like all bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have great roommates my freshman year, but then
It's rough.
yeah, it is rough. But then I
But then
met
what?
like one of my best friends because I got transferred into another dorm. So,
Ooh.
cost benefits. Um, so you did psychology, and how was pursuing that major at UCSD?
Honestly, I'm really glad that I chose UCSD for psych. Um, it was really, I don't know, eye-opening, I guess. and it's funny, I don't remember who it was that I talked to about this. Um, but they're also a psych major, from what I remember. It could have been, honestly, it could have been one of my therapists that just like opened up about this with me. But we were talking about how like a lot of people who study psych tend to want to learn things about themselves too in the process. So I think subconsciously that's what I was doing. Yeah, right? Because a lot of the
Okay.
classes I took, like looking back on it, it's like, oh, no, that makes sense. Like a lot of it was like psychology of like adolescence, uh, e- eating disorders, which was something I was experiencing, but I was like, no, I'm not. Like, that's not real for me. um, a lot of things like that. Abnormal psych, just things like that. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So it was like unintentionally reflective, but then you started realizing it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got you.
Mhm.
Um, what was it like leaving Ridgecrest to go to college in a new city? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I was scared. Um, I think I was just kind of scared of leaving a routine. I was also really scared of leaving my brothers behind. That was really hard for me, because I love them so much, but it was
Mm.
hard saying bye to my brothers at that time. Um, and then just the idea of like having to navigate life, like everything on my own without a parent, because also back in my day, like, we didn't have I feel like Google and other resources, like they were accessible but not to the extent that they are now. Because it's like if I don't know how to change a tire, like I'll just go look up on YouTube or like, TikTok or whatever. We didn't have that back in our day. So it was kind of like, okay, I have my I don't know, I'm trying to think, like money coming in for like student loans and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, how do I use that? Like, how do I
How do I
make sense of
budget?
this? Yeah, how do I budget? Because I wasn't taught this stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of expectation growing up in our household that it's like my mom took care of the finances, but it was like I didn't learn any of that from her.
She
Um,
just took care of it but didn't explain.
Yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, you just do this, and it's like, okay, like, and then what? Like, can you give me a
Yeah.
breakdown, the
Step
step by
one?
step? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was interesting, difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of like, I think a lot of people who are first gen in their families come from immigrant families. They take for granted the amount of information that you have to figure out when you leave the house. Um, that like, you can just ask an uncle if your family's been here or a cousin who's also going through it, but I don't think you or I had that experience to be able to ask somebody in our
No,
families. And
I
you're the
didn't think
oldest,
about
so,
that.
you know, you're first.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's so true. Like, I had family that, and they still do. I have family that live out here in San Diego, and it was like they offered help, but it's also like, well, I don't know if you can give me the help that I need, kind of a thing. Good, but that's a good point that like I feel like we really did have to figure it out without any kind of assistance from other people other than like other first gen students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my high school friends and I, we helped each other fill out FAFSA because none of our parents knew how to, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's pretty wild that like knowledge gap once you're in college and you're like, oh, I got roommates now. Cool. How do I do that?
I
Well, why would you put me in a room with two people? Like what?
know. No, not the triple.
Yeah, I was in a triple my freshman year, so I'm just
Ooh,
telling you, cost benefit.
I know. Yeah. Oof. That's right.
Yeah. Um, so then you go through college and you're kind of like meandering through psychology and your other activities, and I guess where does that land you when you graduate, and like what's the choice you make next?
Ah, okay. That I feel like I took such a weird detour. I my whole life has been weird detours. But I matched with
Same.
this guy. I matched with this guy on Tinder. His name is Philip. Spoiler alert,
Ooh.
we got married. I
Ooh.
know, spicy. But we matched the week before my last final. And I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying it was his influence in any kind of way, but I was like, I'm just gonna take a break from school. Because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had it in my mind that I wanted to go to grad school for a little bit, but I wanted to give myself like a year gap and kind of just like figure things out for a little bit. But uh, I think once I stopped having more of a routine after college, that's when things got really hard for me. Because, like, before it was like, okay, yeah, I'll go to classes at this time. I have, like, whatever workout class at whatever time. I have GBMs. I have meetings with KP, which was the club that Vin and I met in. Um, but I had such a solid, structured routine that after I graduated, I lost that. And that was really, really hard for me. I didn't realize how much of a transition that was going to be. And I feel like because of that, it took a pretty big toll on my mental health. Um, and um, Depression was always there, but it didn't hit as hard as it did until after college. And because of how bad it got, um, Philip was really supportive and we talked about our options because like I think I was working really odd jobs, like nothing related to psych at all. I was working really odd jobs and then he was like, well, like what if I just join the military and then we get like insurance benefits? And I was like, okay, like that's kind of a lot to like sacrifice for someone you've known for like 8 months or however long we'd been together at that point. I was like, sure. um yeah, I kind of forgot what your question was.
Meandering through college, and then what was the decision after? So you're
Oh,
still
decision
answering
after.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, I continued the meandering for sure. Um, I worked so many odd jobs. I worked at Macy's for a little bit as a retail associate. I worked at the challenge course at UCSD, as like
I
a
remember
challenge
that.
course facilitator. Yeah, super random, but it was fun, like zip lining and like doing team building stuff. I worked at an escape room for a little bit. I worked at a hotel as like a front desk person and also as a gift shop associate. I don't Such a random like 2 years after. Um, but once Phil joined the military and he got insurance for both of us, like I started prioritizing my mental health like a lot more and learning a lot more about myself. Um, and I feel like I'm still on that journey since. But once he joined the military, he got stationed out in Hawaii, and I followed him out there. Um, so that was like the first 3 or 4 years of our relationship, which is kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just want to say, like, it sounds really. I mean, I'm sure it was chaotic and like disorienting to have that many random odd jobs in a 2 year span. I did that too after college. Like, for a lot of people, like it is not. I don't know. Not everyone goes to college, has a major, and then gets that job, that like a relevant job right after.
Mm.
Like it's not everybody can land those jobs. And in a lot of cases, you feel a lot more lost than you ever thought because you had so much structure, you had so many opportunities in college, and then all of a sudden, you don't have as many options after. And I do, like, currently I work at an organization that serves first generation college students, and we give them a mentor for 2 years that they're in our program. So,
Oh,
mentors
wow.
that are experienced in career industries for 3 years. We try to match them with industries that's related to them, but that's such a big leg up, that I know I didn't have, and I think you didn't have, because like like there was no one teaching me how to like look for a job, how to land an internship, how to prep my like resume. I had to figure all of that by myself after college because my classes didn't really teach you how to do that either. And neither did the interest groups that we were in. You know, like I was in a community service org and KP, and then I was in a dance team. They didn't teach me how to write a resume, even though that would have been like super helpful on my way out of college.
Yeah.
But that information gap again, you know, like it creates a gap in your career because no one told you this is what you should look for, this is what should like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So,
Thank you for validating that. Yeah,
yeah,
it's hard. It's a lot of yeah, it's a lot of navigating all the time.
yeah,
Navigating for the first time.
yeah. And also, like, you know, obviously, I know you and Philip also love each other and you're good partners together now for, I don't know, how many years have you been together?
Like 10 and a half almost.
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
since I met you. And, like, which is awesome. But the fact that you even had to, like, make that decision as a couple for health insurance is, it just shows the issues in this country. Like, there was no
That is
other
so
way for you
fair.
to get insurance. Like, you couldn't get insurance through those part-time jobs because they weren't full-time roles. And the only
Hmm.
way to get insurance is to be fully employed in the US.
Isn't it so messed up? It's so
So
wild.
messed up. I'm glad that he was willing to try to do that and like to
Yeah.
do that and like you know you found each other in that process. You moved to a different state, almost a different country together,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So what was it like you know, living in Hawaii and you know, being married there like basically right after college?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I don't know if I ever talked about it. I think you know, that Phil and I eloped. So we never had like a big ceremony or anything. But it's so weird because like I feel like my friendships that I have, either you know me like pre-marriage or post-marriage. Like there was never a time where I was a fiance. It was just like, oh yeah, this is Arcee, she has a boyfriend. Oh yeah, this is Arcee, she has a husband. Um,
I think
so marriage
I
is
think I
so
was
weird.
in that. I was in that a little bit. Because
Uh-huh.
like I remember you matching with him and you talked about this guy and then like half a year later you were like, so
Oh
we're
yeah, by the
married.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So silly. So funny. I love telling
Hey,
people. And I joined Tinder for food, free food.
really?
Yeah, to
Wait,
get
say
free.
more on that first.
Okay, so it was actually my roommate. Let me back it up. I broke up. My boyfriend at the time broke up with me Valentine's Day weekend.
Oof.
By the way, thank you if you're listening. I hope you're doing well. Like genuinely, I hope he's doing well. Like I
Mm.
hope that he's taking care of himself and I'm taking care of myself right now. And but yeah, so we broke up. My roommate at the time, she wanted to start a Tinder for me because she was like, "Yeah, it's like a confidence booster, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Do I get free food? Like, will I get dinners out of these men? Because I'm down for a free dinner." So at first, like, I was really hesitant about starting it, and then once I started it and I was getting all these likes, I was like, "Cool!" Like, I wonder if anyone will take me out for sushi. And I did. I got free sushi out of it at least once.
I'm assuming Philip knows this story.
He knows, and he makes fun of me all the time because our first date,
As
I
he
didn't get free
should.
food. But I
Oh.
told him I was playing the long game because now I get free food for life. Joke's on you!
Got him. This one's for you, Philip, and the free food. That's funny.
Oh, sorry, I know you're sidetracked.
All good. No, this is all it's all good context. Um,
Sweaty.
all good. All good.
Oh yeah, so we
So
got married.
Hawaii.
Hawaii,
Yeah.
yes. Hawaii was, oh my God, it was such a culture shock. Like, it was wild. It was really nice that we got stationed there. It's hot. It's humid. A lot of places at the time didn't have AC. So a lot of homes like wouldn't have it. We lived in military housing, so we did have it. But I started working in schools with kids with autism. So I worked as the title was a paraprofessional, and it's basically like I provide one-on-one assistance to a child that has like additional needs. And the schools there, like, yeah, no AC. So the windows are open, the doors are open, it's hot. And I was like, oh my God, I could not imagine being like a child in these conditions. Like, I'm sweaty. Like, I was sweaty. And I was like, I'm not even playing at recess. I'm just standing here. Yeah.
Kind of
And I
sounds like
actually
the Philippines.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
The windows propped open and there's this, yeah,
You got fans
hot.
on. Yeah, it's hot. Yeah. My first day of work was really embarrassing. Because like, I'm Filipino, so like, and obviously, at least I think so, obviously Filipino. But some people thought I was like from the islands. So my first day of work, I come in, I have my backpack, my lunchbox, and everything. And I asked one of the other adults in the room, I was like, hey, is there a place I could put my lunchbox? Because it needed refrigeration. And then she goes, yeah, you could put it in the ice box. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, and so I'm looking for like an actual, like, not a box of ice. I'm looking for like a freezer, like an ice chest
Yeah,
kind of thing. And so I'm like looking for it, and I was like, I don't see one. So I asked her again. I was really shy. I tried to look for like a good 5 minutes by myself. And then I go up and I was like, I can't find the ice chest. Where is it? And she goes, the big white rectangle in the corner. And she points to the fridge. And I was like, oh
yeah.
my God,
And
she thinks I'm
it's
dumb.
vertical. Yeah, it's vertical.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Okay.
It's just it's an older term for fridge.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, and then another custom that I felt very embarrassed about because I was like, oh, I probably look really dumb like a mainlander right now. There was another person that I was working with, and I I don't remember which school it was at, if I had been like around for a while at that point, but we were getting ready to like leave for the day, and then she leans in like to my cheek, and I go, ooh, you got a secret for me? Like exactly like that. She starts laughing. And I was like, oh, do you not have a secret? Like, what's going on? And she was like, no, I was going to kiss you on the cheek. That's how we say bye. And I was like, oh.
I don't say bye like that.
Sweaty.
Oh man. That's real
Like
though.
culture shock. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Different entirely.
Mm-hmm. And I was like,
Um
oh, I hope I'm not being disrespectful, but I just feel so dumb right now.
you just didn't know.
I just didn't know.
That's not real, that's not dumb or stupid, you know, it's just
That's true.
ignorance. That's different.
That's true.
Yeah. Like I don't know anybody that says icebox, by the way. Unless they're kind of older. Because that was mostly what it was for. It wasn't like a refrigeration of everything else. It was more for keeping things really, really cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Now you know whenever you go there. That's
yeah.
what a refrigerator is.
So you were there, was it during the pandemic? Because was that 2020?
We moved like right before the pandemic hit. So 2019 December was when we moved back to San
Okay.
Diego. Yeah.
Okay. Oh
But
wait,
we were
2019
around. Yeah.
2019 was when you moved to San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Got it. Cool. So what else was it like? Like how did you like build community in Hawaii and like, how was it navigating marriage there? Because you're pretty far from literally everybody else again.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Um, so as far as community goes, because I worked in schools at the time, That was where a lot of my community was like the other teachers, the other adults that I was working with. Um, you're you definitely have to have each other's backs for things to work, because there's going to be so many times where things happen out of your control, and like I've I've had moments where like I had to have a little cry break, and if it wasn't for the teachers being really supportive and just being really sweet, like, yeah, go take a break. Like, we got your student. Do what you need to do to take care of you. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have quit so fast. Um, yeah. I definitely said yes to a lot of things that I shouldn't have said yes to. I overcommitted to things within like my job. But as far as like community goes there, that's where I found it. I also found community in belly dance. So I tried out belly dancing for the first time. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a fun
Um,
side quest.
Lots of little side quests.
I know.
I think that's life, though.
Mhm.
Um, you kind of mentioned just a little bit that, you wanted to focus more on your mental health. And that was kind of one of the reasons, like, the health insurance conversation even happened. So I wanted to ask, like, how did you, manage and maintain your mental health while you were in Hawaii?
Yeah. So we used military medicine. And that's not always like the greatest medicine, but it is free. Um,
Okay.
I started therapy at the hospital, like the main military hospital that they have there. Um, I think honestly, the first guy that I saw that like did my intake, he scared the shit out of me, and he made me feel like that I shouldn't be there. Essentially, like your problems aren't bad enough. Like, why are you crying? Essentially, and then I was like, "Fuck you!" Like, I have feelings and I'm sad. I'm big sad. Like, it's not just regular sad; it's big sad. And
Yeah.
I had the courage in me to keep going, which I'm really glad I did, because my providers after that guy were really sweet. Um, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I have ADHD. That was such an eye-opening experience. It was so crazy. Like, it makes so much sense now. Um, I learned that about myself. My depression got really bad. So I had already been on antidepressants, but I started to increase those at that time, and I feel like just the combination of therapy and meds really, really, really helped with my mental health. But it was rough because, like, it's not that I didn't have people that I was super close with, but it was like things were still unfamiliar, and it was hard being away from, like, California. Like, things are so different in Hawaii. Different enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like it gets infinitely harder to make friends and lasting connections as you get older
Hmm.
because it's just work and people's lives are more integrated, so they like you don't have as much time as like when you're in college and you can like run to your roommates at your dorms or the other side of campus, you know
Hmm.
as you get older people just have less time.
Yeah, that's
So I
true.
get that. Damn, you moved a lot. Like I know you moved a lot since college, but I didn't realize how much you also moved when you were younger. Or I'd forgotten.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I forget too. I only
yeah,
like really think of Ridgecrest, but it's like, oh no, like I've lived other places too.
yeah. Um, so I know you moved somewhere else after Hawaii, and where was that?
Yeah, so we moved back to San Diego in 2019. Pandemic hit, and it was like, well, we just got here, but okay. Like, I guess we'll deal with this.
Was that
During that
because
time,
Philip got stationed there, or was it another decision?
oh, so he actually got out of the military after
Oh,
Hawaii.
okay. Got
Yeah,
it, got it.
so
Right, right,
he
right.
it's not retired, but he got discharged from the military. Um, and we honestly, we did not know what our next move was going to be, which was really scary, especially with the pandemic. He was in a boot. Well, I just hit my face. He was in a boot camp at the time, for I don't remember, something in tech. That's usually my
Okay.
answer for everything about Philip. Is like, what does he do? Something in tech.
Some something
Something.
tech.
Something computers.
Yeah.
But that boot camp was geared towards, I think, learning some kind of cybersecurity, and afterwards there would be like opportunities for some of those people to go into like positions at like places like Microsoft or Amazon Web Services, things like that. And with Philip, he got really lucky because I think they had stopped hiring people for a bit after him. I can't remember. But he got a job offer from Amazon Web Services, or AWS for short. And because he took that job offer, we went to Seattle. Yeah. So that's how we ended up in Seattle.
True. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you there?
Little over a year. And that was
Okay.
rough because we moved June of 2020, so like height of the pandemic.
Oh man.
Yeah, and we drove up there with our dog, Nani.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, Nani.
Oh, Nani. Lived there for a year, and I feel like we didn't really get the full experience of Seattle because of the pandemic.
Yeah. I do remember we got dinner.
Oh, I forgot about that with was
Wilson.
Wilson was there. Was it just
Yeah, yeah.
Wilson?
And my partner.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, but I don't know if Philip was there.
I don't know either. I don't think he was.
Maybe it was just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, that was so long
Yeah.
ago.
I know. I know. What did you do while like Philip was in that boot camp?
Oh, so I worked in the same job essentially,
Okay.
working with autistic kids. But this time I was working, instead of in a school, I was working in home and in the center that they had. Um, yeah. So in ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis, that was the field that I was working in for like 6 years. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
And so you didn't stay in Seattle since like that boot camp ended. It was kind of like the main reason for going there, right?
The main reason was because he got a job at from the boot
Right,
camp,
right, right,
a job at AWS, but
right.
things weren't really working out for Philip as much as he liked, and he wanted to do something different. So he started and we missed San Diego. So he looked for jobs over in San Diego, and he found there's a company that he works out over here now. For privacy reasons, I'm not gonna say where he's
Oh
at.
yeah.
But yeah, he has a job here now, and we've been back since 2021.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
It's also just so interesting to make so many decisions with your partner, you know?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of, trust and belief in each other.
Yeah. Did I ever tell
Uh,
you? Sorry.
go. No, what? Tell me.
Speaking of making decisions with each other, did I ever tell you about the time that I signed off on an organ on Philip's organ?
You signed off on his organs.
On his organs.
No, tell me.
That was a weird. I didn't know that was part of being with a partner or being married or whatever, but that was a responsibility that I had in my past. He had surgery for his. I think it was something with his nose. It sounds so bad that I don't remember, but it was something with his nose. Why are you laughing?
Because you don't know what the nose was, like what it was for.
I'm like,
So what was...
I'm like 85% sure it was for a deviated septum
Okay, all
to
right,
help.
I'll
So it
take
was
it.
to help him breathe better. And
Yeah,
then they
yeah,
were like, so he was under anesthesia already. They had already operated on him. And then I get a phone call from the doctor, which I don't remember his name, but I do remember his chest hair. It's quite luscious.
yeah.
I gotta stop looking at his chest. Um, but he
Nice.
goes, Mrs. Ho, we noticed that his adenoids, which I don't remember what those do. He was like, we noticed that his adenoids are a little bit enlarged. If we remove them, then it might help with his breathing, but we need someone to sign off on it. And obviously, since he's under, he can't sign off on it for himself. And so I was like, why are you making me make this decision?
Me?
You need my signature for what?
I agreed to
Um,
what now? I
so I
thought it
was
was
like,
only agreeing to free food.
I know. I looked the surgeon in the eyes and I was like, I mean, if it's gonna help him, I guess. Like, I don't know what to do with this information. I was like, do you think he's gonna get mad at me? I don't remember what your
Nice.
original question was, but yeah. Yeah. Oh, making decisions for each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. For and with each other. Luckily,
Yeah.
he was okay with me taking out his adenoids.
Whatever those are.
Whatever those are.
Um, that's good to know. I mean, like I don't think people really talk about that when they're talking about marriage. Like, yeah, sickness, health, and like when they're not like physically able to say yes or no. That could be like a range of things. And in this case, it was just like, sounds like a normal procedure. A lot of people do the deviated septum procedure. But then there's also like if someone was in a coma, you're gonna have to like make a decision for your partner if you're the one that's
Yeah.
not in a coma. Um, but that's real. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, like the original question was, or I didn't have a question. It was just a interesting thing. Like you two made a lot of decisions together and have come out of it. I think a stronger couple and
Yeah.
stronger with each decision. I'm sure. Um, so it's
Yeah.
cool. We didn't really get to
Thanks.
talk about like you two's partnership, but what about Philip made you trust him in the first place to even make that first leap of like, why don't we get health insurance through you joining the service?
Yeah. Um, this is gonna sound like the silliest answer, but like just like ride the wave with me real quick.
Okay.
So I love telling the story. I might have told you the story before, but he helped me move out of my apartment at UCSD. So we were together for like a week at that point. I'd only known this man for a week at that point. We're moving my stuff out. He's walking next to me to my car, and we're sweaty. Like, it was a lot of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I see him lean over to my shoulder, and then I hear him go, and he smelled me. And I was like, did you just smell me? He's like, yeah. And I go, well, what do I smell like? And he says, flesh. And I was like, this is an honest man. This is a man I can trust, and he gets my sense of humor.
Was it flesh? FLE?
Flesh.
SH? Flesh.
Flesh. I'm flesh scented.
Nice.
Um,
So
but
you knew.
just I knew he was an honest man. And honestly, like he has such a big heart. He has a lot of patience for not just me, but for a lot of people in his life. Um, and yeah, that still is true to this day, and it's something that I really value with him.
Oh, I'm gonna tell him the flesh story next time I get a chance to see him.
You should.
It's very cute.
Thanks.
Dang. I mean I logically knew y'all had been together that long, but that's a decade, you know?
Yeah, that's my best friend.
Oh.
He better stay with me. I'm just kidding. He's allowed to leave. We tell each other all the time, like, you better stay, but also you're allowed to leave because you're your own person.
Aw, I like that. I like that.
Thanks.
So in the last 3 years that you've been in San Diego, what has life looked like in that
Oh,
time?
so much meandering. So I did start taking classes for voice acting in Seattle. I had always wanted to do it. Like I grew up watching cartoons and I wanted to learn like what that looked like. And I was like, well, pandemic's a great time to learn this skill. And I just fell in love with it. I did, we talked about how I did theater in high school and it was just always something that I loved. But I didn't realize like how passionate I was about it and how much I really enjoyed it. Um, so I continued training while I was still working as a behavior technician, and then I eventually got promoted and did training. But I was still taking classes on the side. And then a few years ago, I decided like I'll just make the leap. Like I'll just try it and see what happens. So I quit my job, which I don't know. It's fine. Like it is what it is. I was gonna say I kind of regret it, but honestly, not at the same time. Like it was definitely better for my mental health that I quit. um, and my ex-manager, every time I see her, she's like, "Yeah, you left at a good time." Uh, so that was nice. But I made the jump to quit my job and just try freelancing. Luckily, as far as finances go, um, my job is not our main source of income, nor is like me making a steady income like that's not a huge impact on our finances, which is really nice. We're really privileged in that sense. Um, but yeah, I've just been freelancing. I have my website, all that good stuff all set up, and I'm in the process of looking for an agent.
Ooh,
Yes.
very
And
cool.
I'm learning about on-camera stuff too, so that's nice.
Yeah,
That might be an avenue for me too. We'll
cool.
see.
I think was it a couple weeks ago you were in LA for a class or something?
Yeah. I took
What
a
kind of
couple
class was
classes
that?
there. I took one class which was just like more training on commercial scripts, voiceover scripts, and that was with an agent. Um, and then the one that I took after was like basically like an archetype class because like eventually I do want to get into character work, which is more like animation, video games, anime dubbing, things like that. But like I feel like my wheelhouse is smaller than what it realistically could be. So I wanted to see if there were any other characters that I have that I didn't think about. And one of the interesting things that I learned from in that class was that like most heroines of the story, uh, the character archetype for them or the vocal archetype for them is very clear, um, young, things like that. And so that was one thing I learned. I was like, oh, I never considered my voice as like a heroine type of voice. But the teacher was like, yeah, you have like your voice gives me like Little Mermaid vibes. Or like I think he said damsel in distress also, but he was saying that that's not really a archetype
Yeah,
nowadays, which is good. But yeah, learned a lot. And I'm still taking classes right now.
cool.
Hmm.
Um, so you quit a job and that was still like behavioral specialist, right?
Hmm.
So why voice acting? Because that to folks listening, that might seem like a pretty big jump, you know?
It is. Yeah. I'm not sure, like, to be honest. It was one of those things though, like, in that field of ABA, there is definitely like a clear pathway of like career transitioning. So you start off as like a behavior tech, and then most people they go on to be a supervisor, and they do more like case management, but that requires a master's. Um, and that just like it just wasn't for me. And I feel like I had spent a long enough amount of time in ABA that I figured out that it was not for me. Like 6 years is a long time to be in the same job.
Oh yeah.
I gave it a shot. Yeah, I'm not passionate about it. But with voice acting, it's scary, it's vulnerable, but it's like one of those things, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It was like, it just feels like home in a way. And it's not like I don't know how to really describe it, but it's like something that it just feels right.
Yeah.
And
I got
there's
you.
actually one other thing too. I haven't really talked about it before. I don't think I've ever really talked about it with Philip. But my grandma has dementia. And I think one of the things that she had said when it started settling in was like, I saw you on my TV last night. And I was like, okay, grandma, you don't have a TV, but that's nice. And then I just think about that every once in a while. It's like, okay, you know what? That's my mission in life, is to like one day make it on TV. Because grandma said I would, but
When did she say that?
she was already like experiencing Alzheimer's, so she was like in and out. So like sometimes she would be there and like really present and like know who I am. But then there were times where she would not be there and just say random
Yeah.
things. So I don't know if that was
Yeah.
a random. I think that was a random thing she was just saying.
Probably.
Yeah.
No, but like when was that for you? Was that when you were a kid or like in
Oh
adulthood?
no, in adulthood. Pretty
Okay.
recently, sometime in the last like 2-3 years.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Right? I
That
don't know.
timing. Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
you were taking classes in Seattle for like fun on the side of working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like voice acting classes. And then you kind of took the leap once you were back in San Diego.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I don't know if it's a sign. I'm like, I don't know if I'm spiritual or anything like that, but I was like, I'm gonna take that and run with it and see what happens.
I mean, it sparked something. It was already something you were thinking about anyway, right? Like it was
Yeah.
an interest you were already exploring.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just said it randomly. Who knows? I
Who
mean,
knows?
yeah.
That'd be kind of
I
cool.
don't yeah. I think that's really sweet. And I don't know a lot about dementia, but there are things that our elders still see in us that we might not see in ourselves, regardless of
Mm.
their like actual scientific mental state or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I remember you always playing around with your voice and making silly like noises. Like when I first met you, and I was like, man, Arcee's really like comfortable with herself. And I really like that about you still. So to
Oh,
me, it never really felt like that out of the ballpark.
thank you.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's
Yeah.
a sweet way to honor your grandma too.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Hmm. So, I mean, you're kind of in this what's next phase, and that's like
Yes.
where I'm closing, well, where I'll close us out for today.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, like what are your next desired conditions? Like what do you call this chapter of your life? And what do you want to do next?
I think it's just like after talking about it with you, it seems like my life is just a lot of meandering, and I think this is meandering
Same.
part 723 or whatever. However many segments I'm in.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
and that's okay. Like that's so fine with me because yeah, I'm just figuring it out. I'm gonna be possibly moving to LA in a few months. We'll see. Ideally, it would be by the end of the year.
Oh,
But our timeline isn't super strict, so it might be next year instead. I'm gonna give it like a shot and live that actor life and try it out and see what happens. Throw some stones and see what lands. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Scary.
That is scary.
Feel
I
like I've
believe
lived
in
a
you.
thousand lives. Thank you.
Yeah, I like to call this like the subtitle of my podcast is understanding people's life resumes.
I like that.
Because like it's the title is like the idea I had, but then it's really just people's life resumes, and it's interesting just getting to talk about your life for this length of time, like the wholeness of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, more meandering to come.
Yeah. Like, and we're
Um,
still so young too. Like, I'm
yeah,
excited for what comes next.
yeah, yeah. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Is there a message you'd like to leave for our listeners?
Yeah. Uh, it's okay to fail forward. Let's go with that. It's okay to fail forward. Um, Something that they emphasize a lot in the classes I take is like make strong wrong choices.
Ooh.
Uh, so it's just like it doesn't have to be the right, like everyone's right choice, if that makes sense. It's just kind of like just go with it. See what happens. Like if you feel like you want to try something out, try it out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And that's okay because we're all figuring it out together.
I really like that.
Thanks.
Make strong wrong choices.
Yes.
Cool. And last thing, where can listeners find you?
Ooh, I'm on Instagram at Arcee Montes. I know my name is Arcee Ho on here, but stage name is Arcee Montes. It's spelled Montes. I'm there. If you want to check out my website, that'd be really cool. It's just www.arceemontes.com. I don't think anyone says www. That's fine.
Cool, you just
Uh,
did.
yeah, thanks.
Cool, cool, cool. Um, did you have other platforms? Anything else I can plug? I will add it to the description.
Yeah, I do have Twitter. I don't really use it. Same thing, Arcee Montes.
Okay.
At Arcee Montes.
Very cool, very cool. Um, Sweet. That's all I got for the podcast. Thanks
Oh,
for being
thanks
here,
so much
RC.
for having me on, Vin. This was fun. This was scary, but it was fun.
It was a good time. I think this one I've laughed the most out of the ones
Oh
I've
no.
recorded. No offense to everybody else I've interviewed. RC's just funnier. No offense.
Those were Vin's words, not mine.
All right. Well, thank you, RC, for being here. I really appreciate you.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
yeah. And thank you for listening to this episode of Creating Your Conditions, a work of understanding conditions we are given, forged from, and we have yet to face. You can follow us on Instagram at Creating Your Conditions, which you can also find in the description of this episode. My name is Van, and it's been my pleasure to be your host. Keep creating, and I'll catch you in the next episode.